Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Power. This is your host, Jeffrey Pinzon, and I'm super stoked about today's interview. We're going to have the great pleasure of interviewing Stephanie Gutierrez. Man, I've known her for, I'm going to say, a couple of weeks. We've been in communication, and we've done a lot of stuff in the last couple of weeks, man. She's been a huge contribution to myself, to my company, and just a person that you want to be around. So a little background of Stephanie. She's been in the real estate industry for about 8 years now. She focuses on helping first-time home buyers and also sellers. She loves helping the Latino community, so she takes pride in helping Latino communities. Right now, the last 3 years, she has invested a lot of time in learning the space of ADUs. So I'm super excited because we're going to get to talk to her about ADUs, how can homeowners benefit from it. And also, we get to talk to her about her story, how she gets started in the real estate space. And I'm just so stoked because, again, Stephanie, thank you for taking the time today to sit down with us. I know you have a busy schedule, so thank you so much. And this episode is brought to you by UIS Energy. So this is a company that specializes in helping families save money on their utility bill, on their electricity. They teach families on how to go from renting their power to actually becoming owners of their power. They unleash their power, right? So welcome, Stephanie. Thank you for joining us today. Stephanie.
Thank you. Oh my God, that was an amazing intro.
Look, man, so just so our audience could get to know you a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about who you are? What's your background? And let's go back to high school, man. Who was Stephanie back in high school?
Man, well, first of all, thank you for your time and thank you for your friendship. We've been doing so many amazing things in such a short period of time that it's also my mindset has grown in the last couple of weeks to, unleash and unlock levels that I probably wouldn't have been able to do so without people like you. So thank you for the space. Thank you for having me on your podcast. A little backstory on me. In high school, pertaining to high school, I played softball. So I was a catcher, pitcher. I played varsity all 4 years. Oh. And I was a major softball geek. And I didn't go to the best high school here in Long Beach. I'm born and raised in Long Beach. It was one of the more rougher schools. We looked forward to playing Compton and Jordan, because we would always win. We don't want to play Milliken, Lakewood, and Wilson because we knew that, their training was much more intense. It was just better environment too. So I have a passion, for helping kids and going back to the community. And I'll touch base on that because I am part of a foundation called BRIA Foundation for Kids, where we help them with resources. We teach them marketing, stuff like that. But that's kind of what led to it. So in high school, I was playing softball. After high school, I decided to do some volunteer work at the Major League Baseball Urban Youth Academy in Compton because I wanted to go to school for broadcasting. I wanted to do broadcasting for baseball in Spanish. So I was doing all the broadcasting in Espanol for all the baseball players that would come from out of town. And I did that for a minute. After that, I got a job in the medical field, and I did that for a brief minute. I did medical billing for a couple of years right out of high school. And then I decided that I wanted to look for a different job, it was just that 9-to-5 mentality. I was like, I need a change. So I went on Craigslist. I applied for a job as a receptionist at a Century 21 office. So my backstory is not, this extravagant backstory. It's super basic. I started off as a receptionist at a Century 21 office in Hawthorne. And then quickly worked my way up from there. That's how I transitioned into real estate, which I think is something that you wanted to tap into. But I'll leave it there. If you want me to expand more on what high school was, that was high school for me. And that's what kind of set the tone for the person that I am today.
Awesome, man. I didn't know that you play softball. That's huge, man. So let me ask you this, what made you get out of the medical field, right? Get out of the 9-to-5. What prompted you to take that action, right? And to start looking for better opportunities for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, that was a rough decision to make, right? Because I didn't have any guidance or any, nobody in my environment had that entrepreneurial spirit where I wanted to tap into, which is what I wanted. So really, it was just, we're creatures of habits, of our own habits. And so I thought getting a medical billing course and going to work, at a medical office was it. But quickly did I realize that that's not who I am, you know, and I think that that can resonate with a lot of people, because most people, I think over 70% of people do not like their job and they don't like what they do for a living. And so it takes you to dark places, right? You can deal with depression, anxiety, frustration, because you're not living the life that you want to live. So I always felt like there was more for it for me. I didn't like working for other people. It's just, you know, it's a medical office. Like there's just, that's it. And so I was thinking, like, what can I do? I went to this Century 21 office, and that's kind of what sparked this whole real estate thing. And, you know, thanks to those jobs as well as who I am today.
And why did you choose real estate?
Honestly, because that's what was available at the time. I landed that job there. And then I quickly became like marketing director of the entire office. That was over 200 agents. And then I started recruiting. Then I became the assistant for the daughter's broker of the office. So I was managing their teams. And it just quickly, like, you know, it went from one position to another, but all pertaining to real estate. After that job, I got married. I got married young at 23, you know, and moved to Mexico briefly for a minute, and then moved to Palm Springs. And I did also real estate out there. I did property management, HOA management, managed a few other real estate teams, and took what I learned here in the South Bay out there. And after my divorce in 2017, that's when the entrepreneurship really started for me. When I left the fear mentality of going from, you know, a stable salary for I don't know how many years, because before these medical jobs, I also had jobs in high school, you know, so I was working in high school too, since I was 14. Even before that, my mom had a flower shop, and she doesn't really speak English. You know, we come from immigrant parents, so I was always translating. I was doing business and talking to clients at 8-9 years old when she had her flower shop. So, you know, like it was a lot of jobs that I had where I said, you know what, I need to make this change. So after my marriage, I'll say that was a wake-up call for me, because one of the things that I feared the most was to fail in my marriage. You know, I think that we can speak to a lot of women who probably don't want to make the decision because you feel like you're gonna let people down, right? And so one of my biggest fears was to fail in my marriage. So after divorcing, I felt like I had failed. So like, if you take it back to that mindset of losing it all, and what you feared the most you failed at, then you've got nothing to lose. So that's really where my journey began. And I decided to divorce in 2017, move back home to Long Beach because I was in Palm Springs at the time. I started working with my brother, and my brother actually got licensed when I was working at the Century 21 office, right? So he took the licensing course that I was pretty much showing all the new agents, or all the new licensed agents.
Were you licensed?
He took off. Yeah, he took off. He did his own team. And I moved back home. I started working with him. And it was rough. It was rough to mentally prepare myself from going again from a stable check to now commission only, right? You really got to bet on yourself. And This business is not easy. And I knew that it wasn't easy. Why? Because I was already the one behind the scenes, managing the paperwork, managing the phone calls, talking to the clients, like all the shitty work that the agents didn't want to do, I did, right? For a long time. So I think that's what helped me. You know, all that experience really helped me take this leap of faith to just do what I want to do for a living, you know, and be able to also show my son the same thing. And I'll cut it there because I can go on and on.
No, that's perfect, man. So let me ask you this, like, because I know, like for myself, I could relate to what you were talking about. Like I come from immigrant parents. I never liked having a 9-to-5 job. I always worked for myself. I was the type of person in high school as well that was I was that person that in school, I had, instead of books in my backpack, I had stuff that I would sell, either clothes, chips, you name it. I had all that. So I always wanted to work for myself, right? I did work at a warehouse once. I hated it. I walked out, I think, the second day, because again, I didn't want to be in that environment. But you come from somewhere that you were getting a salary, you were getting paid consistently, and then going to commission, right? That could play dirty tricks on your mind, right? How was that like? Because a lot of people, are probably in the same space that you're at, right? That you were at. Like, man, I want to leave my job. I want to go into a business for myself. I want something more for my family, but they have that fear that paralyzes them because of the unknown. Like, man, I need something, I need security. That's what a lot of people look for. So how was that like? Because I know you just got divorced, right? You have your little man that you have to provide for, and then your family's looking at you like, what is she gonna do, right? You got all eyes on Steph. So what was that like, man?
Well, again, I mean, my parents were pretty tough too, and they weren't so encouraging with the entrepreneurial side because, again, we come from a fearful mentality. I think that we're all wired to think negatively because that's just how many of us were built. And again, we're creatures of habit. So if you're always told like you shouldn't be doing that, or that's not going to work out, or blah blah blah, like you got to cut out that noise. You know, I think that I'm blessed to be a mother because, believe it or not, being a team leader and being a mom is very similar. You've got to have a lot of patience. You have to have a lot of grit, tenacity, and you've got to be able to communicate with the other person, right? And acknowledge how they feel, but also encourage them, give them that confidence. So I'm a huge believer that environment matters. One of the things that I think helped me was the fact that I knew I was going to work with my brother's team. So I knew he had my back regardless. You know, even though I was going commission only, I knew that he would take care of me and he would make sure that I closed the deal. And yeah, for sure. I mean, the first 6 months was rough because I had to show up to work every day and talk to clients and talk to people and generate business and fill up your pipeline while my personal life is a mess. You know, I'm going through a divorce. I'm trying to figure it out if it was the right move for my kid. If you feel that mom guilt, you feel like, was this the right move? Like all these things come to your head, right? Now I don't have that mentality. I mean, I've learned to block out that noise because just as a mother, you know, you have kids too. When your kids are playing with toys, isn't it like miraculous that us parents, we learn how to block out that noise? Like my kid could be playing and I'm on the phone and it doesn't bother me. I've literally zoned it out to the point where it does not bother me. I do the same with negative thoughts and negative people in my mind. I literally just block out that noise. And so that means I've had to eliminate a lot of people who I used to surround myself with, which I don't now. And that's key for me. Like once I understood that environment matters, then I feed myself positive energy. I feed myself opportunity, abundant mindset, alignment, you know, all these words I didn't used to use before. When I was a 9 to 5, it was a different terminology and a different mindset. So I would say that it starts there. Who you surround yourself with matters. Right. And how you talk to yourself. You know, you got to have a good relationship with yourself because that's a reflection. When I was also back to my dark years, you know, when I was married, it was a dark period of my life. Like we were all going through depression and anxiety, and I would scroll on Instagram and I'd see like people and entrepreneurs, and I'm like, how do they do it? You know, like this cannot be my life. Being in a toxic relationship or whatever the case may be, like I cannot hold myself accountable for these decisions that I made and have to stick with them and live with them. And I'm speaking like this because a lot of Latinas feel like they have to stick around in whatever situation they're in. And I'm here to say, like, you don't. It really starts with you. Because at the end of the day, nobody told me to do all these decisions, right? I've had to come through all these experiences to come back full circle to get to know myself. And that's really where the journey began. So now I bet on myself. Do I still have thoughts? You know, we're still commissioned. I'm still a team leader. I got a team that I got to manage, make sure that they're well taken care of and that I want to see everybody win. So there's a pressure there, right? You deal with different types of pressures. There's different levels of it. So I think that for me, it's just encouraging other women, you know, to do the same. But it starts with that environment. So yeah, what you feed yourself and who surrounds you.
Absolutely. You make a great point because words are very powerful, especially the conversations that you're having on your mind on a daily basis, because those are conversations that you have internal with yourself, and you gotta stop and look at those conversations. Are they empowering you or are they disempowering you, right? Are they bringing you down? Because sometimes we were constantly telling ourselves that we're not good enough, even without us even knowing. Like it's just, we're programmed that way because, again, from our environment and everything. So environment is very crucial. So how did that feel, Stephanie, when you went from a salary and you got your first commission check? How was that like? Because I remember when I first got my first commission check, I was like on top of the world, man. I'm like untouchable.
You know what's funny is you bring up a good point. I remember when I left my marriage, I was like, if I could just make this much, right? If I could just make this much, I'll be fine. Like, I've made it. And it was like some low number, like under 100K or whatever. Then I said, when I joined the team, I was like, if I could just make 100K, that'll solve all my problems. Like, my depression's gone, like anxiety's out, like I'm Gucci if I make this, right?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't stop there. And that, I think, was also another growth for me. It's like I hit that threshold of what I wanted to make. And then I quickly realized, like, oh, that does not solve my problems. That does not solve my consistency, my motivation, my, repetition, my resiliency, all that stuff. Like, you're only as good as your last rep, So I went through that goal and I hit that goal. And then I quickly realized, like, wow, you got to maintain it now. So you hit your goal. Now you got to maintain it. And now you got to add and scale and add more to the goal every single year. So then it never stops. So when I understood that, then I also had another growth spurt where I was like, okay, let me take the path of least resistance and actually enjoy the process. So was it dope? Hell yeah. But it's like a high that quickly like dissolves, and it's life-changing though. It's inspiring because then once you see those numbers and I got my first check, I was like, it's possible, right? Now I got to 10x it and now I got to sustain it. But what got me to that check? Yeah. Consistency, right? Hitting my numbers, following up, connecting with people, networking. But the consistency of it is what got me there. And that consistency is what's going to keep me. And so it never ends. Like, I think people need to know that you hit a goal and then you're never going to be satisfied. I talk to people who are hitting 20 million in volume and now they want to hit 50 and then they want to hit 50 and then they want to hit 75. It's like never ending, right? We're never going to be satisfied. So just set these realistic goals with yourself, but don't be fearful that you can't make it. I mean, I surround myself with people like Jeffrey and other people that I see doing like big things because I want to inspire myself. I want to lift myself, my spirit, and understand that it's possible because a lot of people are doing it. It's a matter of perspective, right? If you want to look, when I was a 9-to-5, I was hanging out with 9-to-5ers and nothing against it because it's totally fine if you want to live your life that way. But I truly believe that most people do not like their job, right? So I think everybody should be working for themselves. However, there's some people that will take that leap of faith and there's some people that won't. And that's just what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. You touch on really good points right there because again, going back to it, it's a proximity, your environment, and every new level is going to come with new devils, right? There's going to be new challenges, new conversations. And I was watching yesterday the first episode of the Lakers. I was telling you earlier, and how the Lakers got started with Urban Magic Johnson, and he was playing basketball with one of the guys. He was a rookie. He was about to get signed up by the Lakers, and he played a game they were at a party, and he played like a one-on-one with the gentleman, which was the point guard at that time. And the guy schooled Irvin, and Irvin in his conversation was like, dude, maybe this is all just a hype. Maybe I'm not that good, right? The devil crept up on him like, man, maybe you're not that good. Maybe you're not Showtime, right? And he had Dr. Bus had to freaking talk to him and paint the picture. So that's why it's so important to be around the right environment, because the people that you surround yourself matters 100%, because they're either gonna, again, empower you, or they're gonna want to bring you down to their level, right? So it's very important who you're surrounded.
And that's a good point, with Kobe, for example, his coach. And I recently got a coach, finally. I should have done it sooner, but I think everybody needs a coach when you're going into the entrepreneurship world, because it's essential, right? And it doesn't mean that the coach needs to know exactly what it is that you're doing. Like, for example, Kobe's coach, he didn't know how to do the free throws. He wasn't like an athlete, his coach necessarily, but he still needed his coach, right, to guide him and see those blind spots and encourage him and give him that self-confidence. Because again, we all deal with self-doubt. I sometimes to this day think like, are we on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Like, of course I am. Why? Because I need to rewire. It's like rewiring a house. You know, you got to take the wire out and rewire the entire house because we were wired a certain way to think that we couldn't. And it's all it's just you limiting yourself. The opportunities are endless. I've reached out to people who have been super helpful. And when I was raised, I was raised like to be like desconfiada, like don't trust people. People are looking for like la mala intención, right? Like bad intentions with whatever. And now I'm like, dude, I should have been doing this forever. Just like there's bad people, there's also good people. So surround yourself with the people that encourage you to do better. If they're not encouraging, then they're not in the circle. That's right. As simple as it goes. But it's difficult for people to do because you've got in that circle, sometimes that means family, right? That can be sometimes your own family that you gotta remove. And I've been there, done that too. And again, going back to blocking out that noise, I've learned to block out the noise. If it's not in part of my journey or part of my goal, then it is what it is.
Absolutely, man. Great points, man. So let's transition a little bit of.
Let's talk about the good stuff. Yeah.
And let's talk about you've been in real estate for 8 years right now.
2011. So that's when I started.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so longer.
It's been longer, yeah.
Okay. So what made you? Because I know you spoke about this yesterday. The last 3 years, you've invested a lot of time into learning about the ADU space. What motivated you to get into that, right?
Yeah, good question. So when I moved back, I started working with Ray. I couldn't, but look, I didn't think that I'd be able to sell one house. I sold over 100, in 4 years. And that just goes to show you, like, it was all in my head. This whole time, It was just all in my head. So sold over 100 homes. I was working with a lot of buyers. So at the time, every single buyer that I was showing property to, they were like, what can I do with this backyard? What can I do with this garage? And I felt like as a realtor, I needed to step up my game because everybody's providing value. But what type of value sets you apart from everybody else? Because if everybody's giving value, everybody's giving the same value. But what is helping you stand out, aside from the general value everybody's giving? And so I said, you know what, I need to really understand this whole ADU process because at the time we weren't even talking ADUs. We were just talking garage conversions or rumpus rooms or enclosed patios and things like that. I started following people on Instagram. I'm a heavy Instagram user because that's where most of my audience and community is. You guys know who you are. So I started connecting with people on Instagram. I said, if I wanted to tap into the ADU space and learn more about this process so I can help my clients and then also educate myself and also create a network, I didn't need a lot of money. Matter of fact, I didn't need any money. All I needed was Instagram, and I needed the thought of who can I reach out to that's an expert in the field. So I reached out to a few people. I started doing some lives on Instagram. One of the people that I was going to do work with, turns out that he wasn't who he said he was. And that's kind of what really took it to the next level, where I said, I really got to educate myself. It seems like there's a lack of vetting in the space and also a lack of professionals that you can actually trust. And because it was such a new concept, that's when the whole ADU stuff took off. I was like, let me create a network of people that I've vetted, that I've talked to. Let me understand the process. I started reading the the ADU ordinance. I started reading the rental ordinances. I started connecting with developers, going to events like the one I saw you with Danny. I met a few ADU people 2 years ago when Danny had his first event. So I went back to Danny's Instagram and I followed every single person who reshared his Instagram story and just networking. And now, I have a whole podcast dedicated to real estate, and I curate a space of professionals that are in the ADU space, which can be your structural engineer, your designer, your architect, your subcontractors, your designers, interior designers, your lenders, your realtors. And now I'm also asking realtors to jump on the bandwagon and learn themselves, and I teach other realtors.
And I gotta tell you, you're a true expert in your space. Yesterday in the webinar that you had, You did amazing. I learned so much. I'm like, I only thought that ADU was one thing, but you touched on there's different types of ADU. You want to go into that? Because for
Yeah.
the people that know about ADUs, like I didn't know. And yesterday I was taking notes. I'm like Jadu, or I'm like, what? I thought it was just one. So
Yeah, no, it's a lot. And you know, I talk about it every day, so I forget, but I try to be mindful of the fact that many people still don't know. Although it's a hot topic, you know, ADUs are being built all through California. Not everybody knows what it is, and not everybody knows that there's different types. And so understanding what an ADU is, number one, at a very basic level, it's an accessory dwelling unit. So you can add additional space or you can convert space. Back in 2017, there was a legislation that passed, which didn't require the zoning. So that's where it kind of sparked, right? Because now you don't need zoning. You don't got to change zoning or density or anything. You can build, and in most cases, you can build up to 1,200 square feet. I've seen them as small as 200. Yesterday, I was talking to Neo. The smallest one that he's done has been 275 square feet. So there's different types of ADUs, and there's 4 of them. You've got 4 of them as an example, but obviously there's more depending on what part of the region you're in and what's popular in your area. But there's 4. There's a junior ADU, which is anything under 500 square feet. You've got a DADU, which is a detached ADU. You got a GADU, which is a garage ADU, which is the most popular one here in LA because you have a lot of garage conversions. And then the 4th one is an ADU, which can be a new ground up ADU or an ADU on top of the garage, or, you know, something like that. That's what would be considered just a regular ADU. The 4, in some areas, like I mentioned yesterday, you've got basement conversions, which are happening out in like Portland. Different strokes for different folks, right? Different ideas, but the strategy is incredible. So I'm glad that you and your team came by yesterday, because I learned a lot, you know, as well from the solar. And it's so dope, because when I reached out to Jeffrey, and you already know this, right? I told you it was because I saw you as part of the team. Going back to the reason why I tapped into the ADU space was, how can I build a network for my clients and for myself that's been vetted? And when I saw Jeffrey, I was like, I gotta have him on the podcast. I gotta have him as part of the team. And now he's part of the team. And it was just from asking, connecting, and building. And that's really all it takes. Like, people think that it's super complicated. Like, you got to develop relationships for years and you got to do this and that. We met like 3 weeks ago and we've recorded podcasts. We've done webinars. We're thinking ideas. How can we help each other? Right? Like, how can we collaborate? And that's all it took. Like that if we could do that all day long, we would all be in a different place.
Absolutely. I think we stay stuck in our head, like, oh man, like, oh yeah, I have to build the relationship, I have to talk before,
right?
But no, like, be creative, and you're just on the flow, and you gotta connect with the right people too, right? They gotta, like you say, you gotta be in alignment with each other, so like that you could support each other and be in the same energy. So
exactly.
I meant we in communication, like everything just has been positive. I had the pleasure of helping one of your clients already.
Yes.
So that was huge, man. And I take it like I greatly appreciate you referring me to them.
And the best part about that was that she told me after the podcast, she's like, I had been looking for somebody solar. So that was just a problem that we were able to solve for somebody. And luckily it was one of my clients. And that's the ultimate goal. It's like, I want to curate a space where you need somebody, I got you. We're social connectors here. And not only are we connecting you with the right people, but I also focus on who's aligned with my goals and values and making sure that we're just both on the same path. And I think that you and I both do a good job of that. I mean, we kind of have the same style, you know, when it comes to business. And then it doesn't feel like work. So then it's like a win-win.
You enjoy it even more, right?
Yeah, exactly. People are like, why you got all this energy and you're hyped up? And I'm like, because I like what I do. Like, I get creative in my space, you know? But that may not be the case if you're working in 9 to 5.
Yeah, definitely. And it's contagious, because
yes.
I think since we've known each other, like, we've elevated each other's game. Like, there's stuff that you share with me, I'm like, dude, I gotta implement this, and vice versa. It just allows you to up-level yourself. Again, the people that you surround yourself with
matters.
So
exactly.
Going back to the ADU, so how how can a homeowner benefit from that strategy, right? What are the benefits from it, right? If I was a homeowner, I have a house and I have a garage that I'm not doing anything. Maybe I want to build I want to go up, or I want to convert the garage into an ADU. Uh, how do I benefit? Because I know that I'm gonna come out of pocket and I'm gonna invest, right? I'm gonna come
Right.
out of pocket to build all that. It's gonna cost money. It's not free. So how can I benefit long term? And what type of strategies do you put together for homeowners?
Great question. And I'm going to say that it's very similar to your strategy, which is helping homeowners understand that it's an investment rather than an expense. And although, yes, you have to pay for them upfront, just like you would for solar panels, you've got to pay for construction and permits and process and financing. There's financing available for both options, but you've got to shift your mindset. Let's start there. You've got to shift your mindset from thinking it's an investment, not an expense. So that's one way, right? We start having that conversation. Then I take it into the LP Mama script, which is location, price, motivation, mortgage or financing, and then ultimately the goal. Like that's it right there. So then when I go into motivation, why do you want to build it? Depending on the market and even the price point, different people are doing it for different motivations. On the higher price point, it's more of a lifestyle move. You know, you've got like, you can have a wellness center. I mean, people have gone really creative with it. So it could be a lifestyle decision. Maybe you want to move into that new unit, have it customized, and you live back there and then you rent the front unit, right? And you get to also generate some income. So I would say lifestyle. I would say that's one of the benefits. Cash flow. So generating cash flow. And then also helping you think like an investor, right? I think I worked with a lot of first-time home buyers, and it's very competitive right now. So you're kind of, a lot of people are priced out of the market. And this is just one way to get creative. That's talking on the buyer side. But for the homeowners, I would say it would be lifestyle, generating income, and having more control over their assets, you know?
That's huge. So you said lifestyle, cash flow, investor, finding their needs and wants, right? And then once you find their needs and wants, you add value to that. And again,
exactly,
it's an
right? Yeah, like if you want to, if I go to your house and you say I want to convert the garage, and I'm gonna say, okay, well, what's the strategy? Why do you want to convert it? Are you gonna rent it out long term, or are you gonna rent it to your mom, or is it for your son, or is it for you to live back there and then you rent out the house? Because if it's a long term tenant, then maybe, you know, let's discuss the finishes. Maybe you don't want to go that expensive on the finishes, but you want to get something durable. If it's going to be for you, then maybe you want to build out a little bit more spacious, you know. And I always say maximize the space, you know, because that's also another thing. People are coming to us as the experts to help them think their thoughts, right? A lot of people don't really know where to get started or even know what to do or what to build. So then it's our job to explore these options with them and say, hey, have you considered doing this? Have you considered doing that? I get people who come to me and say, I've wanted to build a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. And then after talking to them, I'm like, why don't you just do a 2-2 or a 3-1? Like more income, more, you know, you generate more. And they're like, well, I didn't even think about that because I was thinking too small. Like, I'm going to just keep it real. You think too small sometimes. So I think maximizing highest and best use. Obviously, do not overbuild. I was talking to Joseph yesterday about this. You don't want to have it all crammed up, you know, but be mindful of people, be mindful of parking, be mindful of space for families, especially people who have kids, and just make it a good environment for people if you're looking to go that route. You know, I've talked about also LA City having a program which helps the elderly. So if you have a permitted ADU, they'll rent it for you. It's almost like you know, like a voucher, like a Section 8 type of program, but they pay really good for the 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms, and 3-bedrooms. So again, it's just showing these homeowners how they can tap into their equity. There's a lot of homeowners, anybody who bought within the last 5-7 years is sitting on at least 100 to 200 in equity. So it's like, how can you leverage that equity, you know, and have it work itself? Now there's contractors who are offering financing. I've interviewed a couple, and yeah, that's basically what I do. That's a little recap of what the consultation looks like, and then, you know, we take the architect, the designer, do the measurements, and all that good stuff.
So roughly, how much does it cost to build something like that? I know it depends on the size
Yeah, it
and what you're
depends.
trying.
I mean, when people ask, I'll give them like just a rough estimate price per square foot, somewhere between 200 to 275. It can go up to 350. It really just depends on how expensive you want to get with the finishes. In places like up north, they're charging $400-500 price per square foot. So yeah, I mean,
Wow.
you want to take into consideration how much it's going to take, how much it's going to be for it to build, how long it's going to take, and how much income can it generate after you've done the build out. And then also, what is the value after refinancing? And this is all stuff that I help you with, right? As a realtor, I have access to this. So I don't understand why other realtors aren't doing it, because we have access to public records, public data. We can kind of comp out and get an idea of what your property would be worth after doing these additions and conversions,
Oh. Are you starting to see a trend like in different cities where they're being built the most?
All over California. I mean, between 2018 and 2020, there have been over 23,000 ADUs built. And that was stats that came out of the White House webinar, which they had dedicated to ADUs. So when you look at it that way, I mean, they're pretty much scattered. But I would say, like, here locally, LA is a huge city. Long Beach recently came out with their streamlined process with the city of Long Beach. They've got pre-approved plans. The city of LA has pre-approved plans. That doesn't mean that they would necessarily work. You got to make sure you vet who you're going to work with, because sometimes, even though these pre-approved plans are there, that doesn't necessarily mean that they will be fit and designed well for your, let's say, garage conversion, right? So you got to take everything that I'm saying into consideration, which is why I do these webinars to kind of, I think yesterday people got a pretty good understanding, of what they could do from start to finish. And if you don't want to talk to anybody yet, go schedule an appointment with city planning, in your local municipality. They'll be more than welcome to help you and assist you and walk you through the process, because people are afraid to go and talk to the city, but the city's there to tell you what you can and can't do. They're not there to tell you, like, no, you can't do this. Plus, they're there to help. So schedule an appointment online or in person. I think Long Beach is now allowing in person. But yeah, that's really where you start, and exploring the option. But helping them think differently is the strategy for everybody, right? Homeowners, potential sellers, buyers, and investors, both on the residential side and the multifamily side.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I love what you're doing, Steph, because this is,
Thank you.
I was reading a book called Blue Ocean Strategy, and this is kind of like your blue ocean strategy, right? You're a realtor, but you're creating your own ocean where there's no competition, right? You're creating
Right.
and you're adding to other people, and that's how you're standing apart from everybody else. While everybody's just trying to sell a house, you're like, no, man, like, you have a house. I could show you how you could now add value to that house, right? And create some passive income if that's what you want, based on their needs and wants. So that's huge right there. So I got a couple last questions, Stephanie. Let me see. Let's go into, I actually got this one from you, from your podcast. You asked me in your podcast what was my favorite food and music. I'm gonna ask you, what's your favorite movie and sport?
Ooh. Okay, with movie, damn, I'm gonna have to go with Mortal Kombat, the first one.
Really? Yeah.
I like that one, and I like Matilda, like both of those.
That's
I watched
awesome.
Matilda this week
Matilda?
with my son. Yeah,
And what about sports?
baseball all day.
Baseball?
Yeah,
Mhm.
baseball and softball for sure.
Nice. Are you currently playing any sports? Like, because I know you skate, right? You
Yeah, I like to
like
skateboard.
you always at the beach skating with your son. That's dope.
Yeah, I like to skate. I mean, I did that in my teenagers, like before high school. I was like a tomboy skater. I mean, I grew up with two brothers and a pretty like straightforward mom, so it was kind of like more on the tomboyish side. So I skated throughout middle school a little bit, but now I'm starting to pick it up again. I enjoy it. It's more like longboard skateboarding. I'm not doing kick flips and ollies and all that.
Man, kudos to you, because I don't need. I'll get on a skateboard, I'll land in my ass.
Really? Oh my God. Yeah, no, I started again with my son, to get him into that. He doesn't really like baseball. I've got him into boxing. skating. He wants to try surfing. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for surfing though, because I'm scared of that. Like, you know, but he's fearless, and
Yeah,
that's the mentality that we need to have.
yeah.
Again, going back to being a mother, my kid, I am blessed to be a mom. Like, I love being a mother because kids teach you not to be fearful. You know, how confident are kids? I'm like, damn, I wish I had your confidence. So
How
having him
persistent,
around
right?
me, huh?
How persistent they are too, right?
Oh my God, how persistent they are. Their follow-up game is on point. They're super like, you know, creative. They're fearless, and they don't have that negative voice in their head saying that they can't do anything. For the most part, every kid that I know just is very confident in their space. And so that's one of my takeaways as being a mother, being Alex's mom, is that, you know, I take all that like and I apply it to the business.
Absolutely.
Block out the noise and get to work.
I love that. I love what you said earlier. Block out the noise, man. You just gotta fade it out and stay focused, right? Put on your blinders and just get to work. That's huge. Well, Stephanie, man, I want to be mindful of your time as well. Thank you so much for taking the time. Any last words to the listeners? Anything?
Well, I would say.
Go ahead.
I would say that, you know, I'm grateful for the opportunity. I would say have somebody like Jeffrey on your team. Thank you so much for making me part of the show. You know, I'm honored. I haven't really been a guest on other people's podcasts, you know, so I'm just super stoked. I think that, you know, we have so many good things coming up that I'm not even going to say like, well, we're going to have more episodes coming soon. So I'll leave it at that.
So how can they follow you? How can they find you? I know that we're gonna put the links on the podcast, but so the listeners, if they're listening to it, how can they find you quick?
Yeah, for sure. I'm all over social media. Like I said, that's really where I spend most of my time and energy on, because I've built a community who is super awesome. Have a huge ADU community there. I have groups on Clubhouse that are dedicated to ADU, so I have rooms there. I have a 10K card, which is steph10k.com. If you guys go there, then you'll see all of the information that I've given, where you can see my podcast, YouTube, pretty much everything that I have going on is on that 10K card, and that will keep you updated with what I have going on, because I'm usually being pulled in 18 different directions, but you know, we get it done.
Absolutely, you are getting it done for sure, man. So hey, Steph, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much. And if you guys like this video, make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel, click on the notification button, click like, share with people that want to learn about ADUs. Make sure that you share this podcast, because she dropped a lot of knowledge when it came to ADUs. So again, you want to make sure that you have Stephanie on your circle. If you're not following her, make sure that you guys go and follow her today, because she's gonna help you up level your life for sure. So Stephanie, thank you once again for being on our show. Greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Appreciate
Have a good day, guys.